Okay, this is lesson 2, and we'll learn the Gemara Amarav. We're basing this on the first section of the Mishnah that said if someone poured water in Rishus Harabim and someone got hurt by that, or I shouldn't say use the word hurt, if someone got damaged by that, then the person who poured the water is obligated for those damages. That I underline the first line of the Mishnah. Now, in the Gemara, Rav says, Lo shanu, we did not learn this, that the person would be obligated to pay Ella only. Let's translate Ella as only. Only in the case of dinitfitu kelev v'mayim, where the clothing got dirty in the water. Aval hu atzmai, but the person himself, who is the person? Person atzmai himself. Whoops. Then the rule would be putter, that the person who poured the water would not have to pay. The reason is because karka olam hizikase, because it was the plain ground. Karka means ground, and olam means plain or you know, ordinary ground. Hizikasi caused him the damage. And what Rav means to say is that the water that was poured is owned by the person who poured it. And because the person owns it, so he's going to be responsible for all damages that it causes. And it's not only because he owns it, it's also because he put it there. But specifically because he owns it, he's going to be responsible for the kalim, for the clothing. Kalim could mean vessels or clothing. Here was translated as clothing. So he'll be responsible for the clothing. However, if it's the ground, the person doesn't own the ground, and not only doesn't he own it, he didn't put it there either. So there's no reason for him to be responsible for any damages that are done to the person. You have to accept the fact that people don't get hurt by water. People get hurt by ground. It's possible they can do this belly flop or something, which can be painful and also probably cause a lot of damage. But that's not a normal case, and the Gemara is not talking about that, or at least Rav's not talking about that. We have to accept over here one thing. I have a little chart. I'll bring that up, and that is that whenever we have any damages that are caused by an obstacle, so there's two possibilities. Either the obstacle is owned or it's ownerless. Now, Shmuel doesn't make any difference. He says, if you dig a pit in Rishus Harabim, that's the same thing as if you left your suitcase in Rishus Harabim, even though, of course, you own your suitcase. If it causes damage, it goes under the category of bar. Rav says, no, it makes a difference. If you own it, if it's your suitcase, if it's something that you want to keep, then it goes under a different category. It's considered your money. We call it a shar, which means an ox, but let's not confuse that with an ox that's running around. It's actually an obstacle that's staying put. But because just like your ox, you're obligated if it causes damage, so also anything that you're trying to keep, you're going to be obligated if it causes damage. If it's ownerless, Rav will agree that there is a category of bar, a pit, and we have to explain what's the difference between a bar and a shar. And the difference is that bar has an exemption. It means you're not obligated in everything that gets damaged by a bar. And you're not obligated in Adam if a person dies in a pit. And you're also not obligated on utensils in a pit. You are obligated if it's your money. So according to Shmuel, any sort of pit or obstacle in public property that damages, let's say, clothing, you would always be pater. And Rav disagrees with that. Rav says it depends. If you own it, then you're going to be responsible. So back in our Gemara, Rav says that this water, since it's owned, the owner of that water will be responsible to pay for the dirty clothing. Okay. Again, we explain that the ground he doesn't have to pay for because the ground isn't his. So Amalei Rav Huna Rav. So Rav Huna tells Rav. Rav Huna is a student of Rav, and he tells to Rav, Lo yehei ela karifsei. The expression lo yehei ela means let it not be only like his rifsei. Well, let's translate rifsei as his mud. Lo yehei literally means it should not be ela only as his mud. So it's nothing but his mud. And that's a question. The question is that if a person is pouring water in Rishus Harabim, let's assume he's pouring it because he's trying to make mud. What does he need the mud for? Well, maybe he'll use it for building or whatever. But why else would he pour the water there? He's pouring the water on purpose. He probably wants to make some cement, let's say. Now, if it's his because he wants it, then he should be responsible for damages caused to the person's body as well. So Rav Huna is asking, why did you say that a person who pours water only has to pay for clothing? It should be like his mud. The ground got wet. It's his mud. He should pay for damages to the person. So the Gemara says, Rav, seems like Rav is answering back, Mi savris, do you think? Let's say, I'll put in, do you think? It's an expression. Oops, I left out the I. That's no good. Let's go back. It's an expression that's used as a rhetorical question. Do you really think this? Do you think the loitamu maya, that the water did not get finished? This is finished, which means absorbed, and maya is water, like mayim. Do you think that the water did not get absorbed into the ground? No, but the tamu maya, the water got absorbed into the ground. We'll make a rhetorical question. That's a question mark, and this is the exclamation mark. Do you think that the water didn't get absorbed into the ground and that there's mud there? No, it got absorbed into the ground and there's no mud. So Meir asked in class, he said if the water got absorbed, so then how the person's clothing get dirty? And the answer has to be, Tosfos actually says this, but the answer has to be that there is enough water to make his clothing dirty, but not enough water to make mud. I guess use your imagination to figure that out. And that would be our solution to Rav's statement, that the reason why he's only chayiv on clothing is because there was only enough water for the clothing. But there happened to be not enough water to make mud. If there was enough water to make mud, and it was mud, obviously the person would be responsible for damages to the body as well.